Before we dive into today's incredible episode, let's take a moment together. There is nothing better than settling in, maybe with a cup of tea, just like in our African tradition, to soak in stories that inspire and empower. So grab your favorite drink and fasten your seatbelts and get ready for an unforgettable conversation with our guest today. And here's the thing. Here at Raw, we cannot do this without you. By clicking subscribe, not only are you joining a community, not only are you subscribing to a channel, but you are becoming a key part of a movement that's reshaping the global narrative about African excellence. We are on a mission to inspire 100,000 passionate individuals that believe in the power of African innovation, culture, and leadership. And guess what? You can help us get there by spending only 2 seconds of your time. 1. Subscribe. 2. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to take it a step further, visit our website and consider partnering with us. Your support fuels our journey and empowers the next generation of leaders. Together, we are changing the world. Let's roar. Today's episode is all about Mula, the shillings, the naira, name it. Today's guest is an accomplished entrepreneur and serial investor with a strong background in venture capital. He is a managing partner at Venture Platform, where he supports portfolio founders with investor relations, fundraising, corporate governance, international expansion, mergers and acquisitions, and growth marketing. Everything about him reflects a commitment to driving innovation and entrepreneurship across Africa. Welcome, Dr. Dotun Olowoporoku.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to meet you, Credo.
It's a pleasure to have you here at the Sunnyplace. And normally here as an icebreaker, we start with our names. So your name, Dotun Olowoporoku, does it have a special meaning or a story behind it?
Yes, like most African names, there is always a meaning to it, and particularly from the tribe I'm from, the Yoruba. Every name has a meaning. So I'll start with my surname. My surname, Oluwoporoku, actually is a nickname of my grandfather. It's not a family name. A family name would have been something else, like my family name would be Salami, actually. My grandfather was a rich guy in his time. In his young days, he gives money out a lot. He's very generous ahead. And so people gave him the nickname Oluwoporoku, which means money can answer everything. Because basically, he uses his money to just solve problems. Like when there is dispute in the family, just say, okay, what is the cost? And you go to the root of it. Okay, probably it's about money or land, and he would just use his money to solve it. So it literally means Olowo, the person with the money, can stop every matter. And that's the surname. And my name, Dotun, the full name is Ola Dotun, which means wealth is renewed. My parents went through a bit of separation before I was born, as I'm the last of the kids. So when they came together and they had me, and so the name just reflects the stage they are in that relationship, that our wealth is renewed. In a way, my name is our wealth is renewed and money can answer all things, which again, I hope that I will have a lot of money because of that name, but that's what my name is.
Oh, that's powerful. And where did you grow up? Can you tell us about where you grew up, the language that you spoke at home, and where you went to your school life?
So I grew up in Lagos. I was born, bred, buttered, and everything raised and stewed in Lagos, basically. I went to University of Lagos, so I went to my secondary school, primary school, University of Lagos for my undergrad, and then went to the UK for my postgrad. The language we speak at home is Yoruba. My parents speaks a mixture of Yoruba and English to me when I was growing up. And all around me, everybody speaks Yoruba, even though Lagos is very multicultural, very cosmopolitan. My neighbors were Igbo, Hausa, and different tribes. But most people speak Yoruba when I was growing up. It's changed a lot now. It's not unusual now to see people growing up in Lagos that they can't speak Yoruba. When I was growing up, it's not always the case, except you are in the upper middle class or higher class where everybody speaks English around you. So I grew up speaking Yoruba. My kids now, they don't grow up in Lagos. They grew up somewhere else outside Nigeria, but we speak Yoruba to them and they can understand, but they can't speak it yet.
And in your school life, were you a model student or a bit naughty, causing a bit of trouble here and there? And could someone see in that time that you were headed to be an entrepreneur or an investor?
I wouldn't say I'm either. I wasn't a troublesome guy, and I'm not sure I'm a model student as well. Funnily though, I mean, in my WhatsApp group, my alumni and a lot of my classmates will say that what I'm doing now is not too different from what they see that I would have done, that I was a serious student. And all through my school years, I was always I take lessons quite seriously, especially in the university. I was involved in so many other things, church fellowship, but I was also top of the class because I take my studies seriously. And that means that I was left out in so many other things, like social life, for example. I don't understand some of the social or relationships. I didn't do that when I was at uni. But I don't think anyone that knew me would have thought that I would be an entrepreneur. Because there's some people that you can see clearly right from university, they are very entrepreneurial. They take opportunity and they go for it. I wasn't. I would have said the people that see me as a model academic, which was a path I chose originally, or a model, just a very professional person, right? That was the path that I thought I would have gone. Or some of my classmates one of my secondary university classmates saw me recently and said that they've always had this respect for me when I was in school because I was a fellowship guy. So the path that they thought I would have followed would have been, and I thought as well too, would have been a pastor or something, or lead a church. Yeah. That was a path that people thought I would have gone. But then life changes things, and then I became an entrepreneur. I say today I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I went into entrepreneurship based on the calling that I think I have to support other people, but that's not what I wanted to do originally.
We'll get a bit deeper into the journey of entrepreneurship. And just off the head now, I'm wondering, is it really as glamorous as people think, this being a venture capitalist? I imagine probably right now you're on a yacht or something. Is it all exclusive events?
Venture capital is one of those, I think, thinking about it now, let's just say it's one of those career or industry or job, actually, I'll use the word job, that looks more glamorous than it is. Because you are the one investing. Someone is investing means that person is very rich. He has money to invest. But as a VC, you're not actually really investing your own. 100% of the money is not yours. Yes, part of it is yours, which means that you got to a place in your career where you have money to be able to invest. And then you now have got to a place in your career where people trust you with the money as well. So over 95% of the money that you are investing is from other people, from institutions, from individuals, from HNIs. So it means that you've gotten to a place, a comfortable place or a very good place in your career where people can trust you with money to invest on their behalf. And you also have some money as well to be able to do so. But VC is not as glamorous as people think it is. For starters, it's an industry where you don't know whether you're successful until after 10 years or thereabouts. Because you invest in a company, yes, you get management fee, which is not a lot, but you don't get the return most of the time in that fund until about 8 or 10 years. So you don't know whether the money has gone the feedback loop is very long. Compared to an entrepreneur, a startup founder, you know if you're successful or not after 2 or 3 years because it's either it's growing or it's dying. But VC, you don't know until about 10 years. And apart from that, the second thing is it's a company where it's an industry where you carry a lot of load and you have little influence on what is happening or what can happen. So you invest in these startups, you are a minority shareholder, you don't drive the company. You can only advise and give some input. You cannot really influence the direction of the company. The founder decides to take it to the ditch. You can intervene, but intervention is also limited. And so you don't have control over a lot of things that happen in the company. Actually, the company that do well, they are the ones that you don't even have a lot of input on. The ones that you spend a lot of time on are probably the ones that are struggling. So when you are actually intervening, you're intervening to actually reduce the loss rather than optimize for the gain. So you don't have that control. You also don't have control over the macro that can affect. You can invest in a business that is doing well, maybe part of your portfolio. You have constructed your portfolio, 20 of them, 5 of them they're going to be the fund returner. They are growing 300 million, whatever revenue, you can estimate that they will exit at social point, and then you get X amount of money from that company or returns. And then maybe the year that you're thinking that they're going to be exiting, the macro turns bad, or the FX is really bad.
Right.
You don't have control over that. And then the company decided, it just doesn't make sense for them to sell at that point, or they can't raise money, or worse, they run out of money and they die. We've seen companies that are like $1 billion die as well. So you have less control over the macro. The third one you have less control over is who is going to give you money, whether you're going to have enough money, whether you're going to raise money, you're going to raise another fund. Remember I said that it takes about 10 years for you to know whether you're successful. About year 6 or 7, you start seeing whether the fund is good or bad. And you need to raise another fund before your current fund goes. Because else, if you exceed, if after your investment cycle, there is a step down in your fees. And when there's a step down, it means that you don't have enough money to pay yourself or to pay salary. So you need to raise another fund if you want to continue the firm. And you have limited control over who is going to give you money at that point as well, whether they're going to re-up. It creates a lot of angst where you carry a lot of weight, but you have less control on the founders, control on your LPs, and control the macro that makes the business work or not. While it sounds more glamorous, I speak to a lot of founders. Most founders in Africa can call they're on a WhatsApp away. You have influence, or some level of influence or say or insight into industries. And you go to, like you said, exclusive events, you go to events, you speak, but it's not as glamorous as that. And last thing I'll say is that VC, and I've been an entrepreneur, and I've been an operator as a C-level officer in a company, and I've been a VC. It's the most enjoyable part of all of them for me. I enjoy what I'm doing because it's my passion and it's my calling. But it's not the quickest path to riches.
It's not
The
as
quickest
glamorous.
path to riches, the quickest path to riches is actually, funnily, is for you to be a C-level officer of a high growth billion-dollar business. Not even to be a founder. A founder is hard because you likely run a business that will not work well. But if a C-level officer of a high growth company, you can easily make a lot of money.
That's enlightening. Now I would like to dive into your journey into venture capital. Your first business had angel investors from your church, actually, and also somewhere along the journey it had Doug from The Apprentice. Tell us about this first business that you ran.
Yeah, so my first business, like I said before, I say I'm an accidental entrepreneur. If a book I write about myself, it's accidental entrepreneur.
Okay.
And recovery, academic, and a passionate investor. So I have a PhD in environmental management, and I did a postdoc, and then I stumbled into this idea of food ordering platform. Basically, because I was doing a part-time job as a student actually as a postdoc for a restaurant in Bristol in England, and I realized at that restaurant they're paying a lot to hire the driver, because the drivers would just sit there for hours, and we're doing delivery, and they pay per hour, but they only do about 4 or 5 deliveries, because that restaurant is primarily a sitting restaurant. It's not a quick service restaurant. It's a proper high-end restaurant. And there are lots of them like that really want to serve their customer takeaway. They don't have the infrastructure to do the delivery like takeaway restaurants, but they really want to serve their customers. So they have these drivers, and I was working for them 2 days a week, and I'll sit there just reading books. And I realized actually there are more efficient way to do this. So I told them that to give me all their, because they have about 3 chains, give me all your delivery, and I'll hire drivers, and I'll coordinate those drivers by phone call. So you just need a delivery, and I'll send the order to the drivers. And that morphed into having a platform for that. And I said, okay, there are more other restaurants like them that don't have delivery infrastructure, but they want to deliver to the restaurants. This was 2012, by the way. So that was before Uber Eats. And what was happening that time was the ubiquitousness of mobile phone. So mobile phone was becoming a thing that everybody is having, and you have GPS on the mobile phone. It means that you can actually build an app, and Uber was growing at that time too. You can build an app that you can take order on a centralized platform, send the order to a rider closest to the restaurant, pick it up and deliver. And so before then, takeaway platform, they don't do delivery. They only send the orders to the restaurant and have to hire their own riders and do delivery. That excluded a lot of other restaurants that don't want to have their own delivery platform infrastructure or have a bike. Because before then, every restaurant had to have a biker and a rider if they want to do takeaway. So I iterated the idea. Funnily, the other people too were thinking about it too. One of them was Deliveroo.
Okay.
And London, and they started just before me. And then I started around 2012. Started a company called meals.co.uk. Shared the idea with two of my friends in my church who liked it, and they gave me the first check. I don't know what angel investing was about then. We just agreed on a valuation, and they took 20% of the business, which was great, gracious of them. I started. It enabled me to stop working and just focus on it. And I quickly realized I was running out of money within a very short time on that. And then I was going through. I was running out of money because I didn't know how to spend it. I was just doing adverts, and I didn't know I didn't know a lot about startups. I was going through apprentice in the UK. Just the show just happened, and there's a guy in the show that I like. I've forgotten his name now. He was the runner-up, and he just announced that he's just raised money not from the apprentice, but from someone, another angel group in the Midland of UK. And I was going through the people he raised money from, and I was just researching some of them, and I saw a name there, a gentleman called Doug Scott. And I went through and I realized that he has an angel investment outfit, like an investment platform, and it's a form to be filled for anyone that wants to raise money in startup. So I applied, put my business idea and everything there. And then I just applied. I was looking for funding. I didn't hear back for about a few weeks. I was on holiday in Scotland with my wife, and then I got the email back from him to say, just a line out to say, your idea is interesting, but Just Eat, which is the biggest platform that does takeaway platform there, is going to kill you. You don't stand a chance. Just is going to kill your business. And I looked at it. It was disappointing, of course, but because he said Just is going to kill my business, he's wanted to say, I'm not going to invest. Thank you very much. Yeah. But to say Just is going to kill you. So I took it as a challenge, and I replied him, say 10 reasons why I think he's and why my business is different from Just Eat. And the last reason was, even if Just is going to kill this business and I would try. I would try it and prove it out, and then rather than just give up based on what you told me. I don't know what came about me to reply that way. But of course, that reply went to him, and not just to him, but to everyone in his team as well. He told me later. And when they saw the reply, his team, knowing who he is, they told him, yeah, you're going to see this guy, right? You're going to meet him. Yeah, because he's your type. And so he replied me and said, what are you doing next week? Let's catch up. Let's meet up in London. So I met up with him in London, and it was an interesting conversation. We were just talking about what's my story and what am I doing, what I'm doing. And right there and then, he just said, how much have I raised? I told him it was £20,000 then. He said, what you have raised is too small. The valuation is too low. I'm going to invest £50,000 in your business, and you need to change the valuation. You need to increase the valuation. And he just structured the business just there and then. I was like shocked. He said, meet a guy, and he said, this business is great, and I need to invest in it. When I was leaving him, we met in London. I was going at the train station. He sent me an email and said, you're thinking too small. You need to think bigger. And I'm going to introduce you to a lot of my friends. Before I got home, he introduced me to quite a number of people who were also interested in investing. Within a few weeks, I got a lot of commitment, and it was amazing.
Wow.
The round was closed by December. We raised my first seed round, courtesy of Doug Scott. Now, to fast forward the story, Doug was one of the most instrumental person in my career as both as an entrepreneur and as an investor, because he backed me and also introduced a lot of people. 90% of all the investors in my cap table for my business, we ended up raising about $700,000 pounds or thereabout. Before the business then got, we matched it with Just Eat at the end of the day. He was one that introduced me to all of them. He was one that was strategic in helping me to think about the business a lot. And he was supportive all through my entrepreneurial journey in that chapter. As if I'm writing a book, there will be a whole chapter about Doug.
Exactly.
And how it shaped my thinking. When the business now was coming to an end when we couldn't scale so much, and because the competition was so stiff with the likes of Deliveroo who had raised good money. And I was lucky enough for Just Eat to say they're going to match with me. They're going to take over our business so that we can build that delivery arm of their own business. I did that, and means that I exited the business, and I was thinking of what to do next. Again, I was thinking about that, and Doug called me again and said, what do you want to do? You want to start another business? We can back you again. Or do you want to go back to academia? Good luck. Or can you join my firm? Because then he was looking at Africa as a place to invest in. Say you have a lot of knowledge, you're from Africa, and you've been an entrepreneur, you've tried, you failed, you understand stuff, you have connection, be a venture partner in my firm, investing in Africa. And so it was Doug that nudged me to become an investor, actually. And nudged me, and then I joined him for a while, and then spun out, start an advisory firm that I started primarily in Nigeria and Africa. It was Doug that actually backed that as well. He put the money behind it. So that was my journey from being an academic to an entrepreneur to become an investor. And then it was Doug that actually helped along the way.
It's amazing the impact an investor can have. Sounds like the difference is like night and day, the day before and the day after you met Doug. Was there an investment that you were sure would be successful, but it didn't work out?
All the investment that I made, I thought would be successful. And all the investment that we don't make, I thought would be successful, right? Some of them don't make it. There are lots of companies that we've invested in that have died. But every one of them, at the point of investing, I have to believe that it's going to be successful.
Was there any that was so surprisingly successful, like it was beyond your expectations?
Oh, yeah. The one that was beyond the expectation, even though the expectation I had was even big, but they overshoot that expectation, was MoneyPoint. MoneyPoint was an investment that I did when I was a Novastar at the seed level when they had like 6,000 agents. The projection I made, even though I was very bullish at that point, was that they will become maybe number 3 agent banking, and they will become a full-fledged bank over time, and they'll be making like $100 million revenue in about 5 or 6 years' time. They beat all those expectations by far, and became super successful. Now, $1 billion business with over 500 or 600,000 merchants in the network, and massive business across not just Nigeria but elsewhere. I joined them at some point as the chief commercial officer. But it's a business that shot that, and for every investor that invested in MoneyPoint, when we did, that was 5 years ago, everybody's expectation was beaten.
You've spoken before about your belief in entrepreneurs shaping the future of Africa. Like, where does this conviction come from, and what role do you think venture capital will play in this?
Yeah, so maybe we could walk back to what is that belief that I have, that entrepreneurs will shape the future of Africa. I love history a lot. I love reading history in my spare time. I'm an history buff, and I like to go back. If you on this continent that we are talking about, we are in, or maybe not in now, but we both come from 500 years ago. We have our own way of doing things, our own civilization, our own culture. There are a lot of good, what you say, community and kingdoms and monarchy system and stuff. But we didn't have access. One of the challenges that we had was that we didn't have access to the flow of information, or interacting a lot with the flow of information between Asia and Europe at that point. That was Asia and Europe were the big centers. Actually, Asia mostly were the big center of information. And information was super important, because the information you build on top of that, scientific knowledge, writing, codifying your knowledge and passing it from generation to generation. We didn't have that. We had our own way of passing information across from one generation to generation, but they are not codified, and they are not connected to the central repertoire of knowledge. And what I meant by that is the basic of science today. Science is the base. Science is what has helped humanity to advance significantly. You and I are talking to each other now over a medium that would have been magical 500 years ago. It's like magic. It's like, what is this? We can talk, we can see each other over this medium. The basis of it was science, and it was built over many generations. But the basis of science started from Asia, and they built on it, and Europeans built on it. But the basis, the real scientists originally, they were mixing all of this stuff were from Asia. Arabs Mathematics started from algebra is an Arabic thing, right? And the reason why it was able to develop and grow, and then Asia and especially Europe grew, was that they were able to connect that knowledge and build on it. So that access to information, access to knowledge base is very important. We didn't have that. And then when we started having that, it was people coming to us and extracting and using us as the basis of raw material for other things. So the Industrial Revolution in Europe that accelerated Europe beyond every other person faster. There are two things that made it happen. One is the Enlightenment, which again, building civilization on science rather than on religious dogma. So Enlightenment first, and then science. Again, knowledge, being able to challenge the status quo and science and being able to teach that well. Third was access to raw materials from Africa. So we were the input rather than contributor. We're just used as input. We're not contributing or making or doing it or being involved because we don't have that knowledge. Our knowledge is codified in something else. So we're both input in terms of the raw material, but also in human labor. Transatlantic slave trade fueled some of those advancements in the Western world. So if you look at that, you see that entrepreneurship was out of our reach. There are some entrepreneurs in Africa, but they're just selling slaves and doing small stuff. There was no big scale entrepreneurs, right? The big scale entrepreneurs are the ones sending ships to Africa, taking humans, taking it to South America, using it to develop plantations, taking the proceeds from there to Europe, using it to feed their own industrial revolution, and making materials of that, guns and other stuff, selling it to Africa to cause more war and get more slaves. These are the guys that are making all of the stuff. We were caught out of that. Then fast forward to maybe late 1900, we were now colonized by those guys when slavery is no longer tenable or viable as a business. We're now colonized, and then again, colonization shut us off from certain things. It means that we cannot really determine our own destiny ourselves. Our raw materials is taken away, and a lot of decisions is made out of us rather than by us. And yet there are some educated Africans, but most Africans were not educated. Most Africans were not connected. If you take a country like Congo, and now called Democratic Republic of Congo, it used to be just a personal plantation of King Leopold. And most people in Congo were not educated because the Belgians made it so. They cut them out of it. When they got independence in the 60s, led by a very charismatic gentleman called Patrice Lumumba, there was no graduate in his cabinet, including him. There were less than 30 graduates in the whole of Congo at that point. Less than 30 graduates. So that means they don't have access to those information. Now, Patrice Lumumba, by the sheer force of his personality, moved a lot of things, but then he was killed for that. So you see, Africans were cut off from that, determining their own future or leveraging on the resources that they have. Nigeria is a different one. A lot of Nigerians were educated, but even then, the decision is made out of us. And then in the early 20th century, the existential angst and struggle in Africa was to take political leadership first. And it was led by people like by Nkrumah, and just take the political leadership. And we did that successfully to some extent. 1960, late 1950 to early 70s, most African countries became independent.
Independence.
But we got independence, again, maybe this is a podcast, it's not supposed to be an history lesson, but I hope people enjoy it.
Of course, it's enlightening.
We got independence, and I'm trying to lay the groundwork for what I meant by Africans entrepreneurs. We got independent at the wrong time. Yeah, it was good to have it, but got it at the peak of the Cold War. The Cold War between America and USSR was there. And what that means is that these two superpowers were fighting for dominance, but they use proxy fight to make that happen. And then they're incentivized to have a strong man in all those countries in order to get access to what they needed. So they fueled a lot of coup d'etat in Africa. So in the 70s to 80s or even early 90s, most African countries were not really free because they were run by dictators. Idi Amin in Uganda, Abacha and Babangida in Nigeria, and all of dictators everywhere. Most African countries were not democracy. It means that even though we have some entrepreneurship, but it's not free market. Because entrepreneurs need rule of law to be able to thrive properly. But in a country where you can build your wealth, you can build a business, one day a general can just walk into your office and say, hey, you, out. You can't build a great business that way. Or the general says, hey, I want to be accountable 30% of your business for nothing. What do? Dictatorship didn't allow that. In the 90s, we started getting winning off that. And that 90s, late 90s and early 90s started coinciding with when there was a lot of technological revolution as well with internet and connectivity. It means that for the first time, we're not only taking hold of our own political leadership, we're now connected to the knowledge that we didn't have 500 years ago. We're not connected to information. It means that for the first time with the internet, the same technology that I have in Nigeria is the same technology that someone else have in South America. So the guy in Lagos can have the same knowledge, the same technology as the guy in New York, and can understand what is happening in New York in real time, can build on that quickly, can build products leveraging on advancement of technology and knowledge that someone else has developed in Asia or America or Europe, and build a product. So we can build a payment gateway that is equally as sound technologically as Stripe, for example, in America. And what that means is that we can now leverage on the political leadership that we have and the freedom and lack of dictatorship in the market to build stuff. This is an entrepreneur age. And it means that we can move a lot of things forward in Africa. As governments still have to play a part, and they still do. Stuff needs, all these social aids need to play a part. But entrepreneur can move us forward a lot faster. And those entrepreneurs have to be risk takers. Because if you look at the global human advancement in the last 100 years, has been people that took risk on internet, on payments, whether it is Uber or Google, Facebook, whatever. They moved humanity forward. What you and I are using now, this ability to be able to talk to each other and face to face. And entrepreneur taking that and moving it forward, right? And I think in Africa, we can do that, whether it is in payment or health or logistics or energy. Entrepreneurs can leverage on the political leadership, access to knowledge, access to information, access to technology, and move Africa forward. I told you about MoneyPoint. Over 500,000 merchants can now use the technology of MoneyPoint to accept payments, transfer payments, save, and get loans for their business. It was unthinkable 10 years ago. Now they can get that because an entrepreneur took that. So that's what I meant by entrepreneurs can move Africa forward. And VC like me are the one that's supposed to take the risk and back them with money and resources to say, yes, it's risky, it can fail, and I can lose money, but what if it succeeds? What if they become the next money point and move, not just return money for me, but move 500,000, give access to a lot of 500,000 entrepreneurs to be able to run their business better. That's what I meant by that. So looking at that context of history.
I think that's very powerful. And here at RA as well, we believe education is the key. And that's why we really try to bring expertise online for people to be able to access, because we think it's very important for people to have knowledge. I'd like to scale out a bit and talk about venture capital in Africa. You had already touched on that. As someone in this field, do you think it's a good time to invest in Africa or to start a business?
Always a good time. Start a business in Africa. You have to understand the market you're going after and where you stand in that market. But it's also a good time to invest as well. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm biased, but it's a good time to invest. Given the context that I gave about the right timing for Africa, this is the best time. This is a good time to invest.
From a report in 2023, attracted a total of $4.5 billion in venture capital and venture debt in 2023. And this was over 603 deals. West Africa remains the leading destination for VC deals in the third consecutive year, with Nigeria at the forefront. What makes Nigeria such an attractive startup ecosystem for investors?
This question I answered a lot of time, but I'll codify it to maybe 3 or 4 things. Number one, there's a historical antecedent of Nigeria being an entrepreneurial hub. Actually, the country itself was formed based on entrepreneurship, although extractive in nature. Nigeria was actually founded by a company. Yeah, the Royal Niger Company. And the idea was to trade. So Nigeria was started as a trading company. And then the company then sold the right to that company to the British government. in the late 20th century. So it was an entrepreneurial hub. And again, traces way back to transatlantic slavery when the Portuguese started coming. So you have the place of Lagos. Lagos has always been a very rich city for more than 300 years. Attract a lot of entrepreneurs from interland, from everywhere, to just come and do business. So that creates a culture of can-do spirit. And then you have late 1900 where you have a lot of returned slaves, people who became free from Brazil, from Canada, moved back and settled in Lagos. And these are entrepreneurs. So it's an entrepreneur by nature, and including the whole of Niger Delta, very entrepreneurial. So you have that. The second thing is the sheer population of Nigeria means that there's a captive market. You can build a business and you can easily map out that you can in 2 years, if you do a business well, you can become a multi-million-dollar business because of that market itself. And the market is huge and aspirational. The third one, and again, more of it speak to the recent growth. The Central Bank of Nigeria took a very good decision in the last 15 years to invest in technology and financial inclusion, which means that a lot of the Nigerian banks, they're one of the most advanced in Africa in terms of bank-to-bank transaction. Nigeria was the first in Africa to do instant bank transfer. Long before even M-Pesa, Nigerian banks, you can easily do transfer. So they put a lot of money into that. So you have the likes of companies like InterSwitch, we grew out of that. And so InterSwitch, the billion-dollar business, founded 2002 on the back of that. And what that means is that you have a lot of tech people who build their career on the back of building solutions, enterprise solutions in Nigeria. Generations of tech people who are that. What that means is that you have huge amount of mentors and opportunity of people who can dream big. And so when VC money started coming to Africa, initially it was landing in Kenya because of M-Pesa, but the long-lasting and resilience of Nigerians and building product and all those things I talked about, entrepreneur community, people who have made money from tech or banking, and the strong tech community means that it became the best place to attract this kind of capital, and the market as well makes it attractive for that. So Nigeria is not surprising to be the one that has attracted more capital, but also has attracted a lot of exit as well too. So out of maybe seven unicorns or 9 unicorns in Africa, 6 of them are from Nigeria, or started from Nigeria because of those factors.
And you've touched a bit on fintech, and indeed, although the VC investment has declined in Africa as of last year, fintech continues to dominate, making up 48% of the deal value. Why does fintech remain to be so strong, and which sectors of fintech can different people in different countries in Africa take advantage of the trends that are really sustainable?
Yes, I think that will continue to be, and I have a strong view on this. I'm a fintech bias guy, and the reason is because fintech, if you strip it back, it's financial technology, and the idea of it is to make financial services use technology in a better way. Financial services is basically transferring value. So I make something, it is of me transferring value from one place to another. It is the bedrock of every commerce that you'll be able to transfer value from one place to another, or capture that value, or store that value, or grow that value. That's the idea of banking and financial services. So fintech will always be the bedrock of most growth. So in technology, because without it, you cannot capture the value and transfer the value. Fintech needs to be solved first. 6 years ago or 7 years ago, when I started coming to Nigeria to invest, the big industry then were e-commerce. You have the Konga and Jumia of this world. But they struggled to scale because fintech wasn't solved. All of them had to have their own fintech in-house. But the likes of Paystack and Money and Flutterwave came in, and immediately that was solved, other industries started building on top of it. So fintech is a fundamental rail that needs to be solved. Now, there are still other aspects of fintech that needs to be solved, like wealth management, insurance, cross-border payment, and all this kind of stuff. But it's not surprising that fintech as a sector on its own attract more money, because it's on top of that you can build other industry. Now, what other aspect of fintech, people need to pay attention. I think payment has been mostly solved. It still needs to be solved in other places, I think. Sometimes we say payment has been solved. We need to think about it in Nigeria and big market. But I guess in some other small market like the Gambia, for example, or Mauritania, I think they will still do well with the likes of Paystack and payment to be there. So that, but I think more importantly is the cross-border payment that I think is a big opportunity that I'm seeing. And that's because Africa is becoming more connected, both intra-Africa trade, but also Africa to the world. China, for example. I was on a call with an entrepreneur yesterday who was sending money to China to get something, and it's finding difficult to do that using a platform. There's still a lot of opportunity there to be solved. It should be easy for me. It shouldn't be difficult for me to see something to buy in Uganda and pay the money instantly and get a value quickly. So I think there's still a lot of things to be done with regards to that, and still a lot of opportunity for us. And beyond cross-border payment is also insurance. Less than 5% of Africans are insured. Less than 5% of Africa are insured from financial shocks, and I can make them from doing a little bit well to poverty. I think there's still a lot of innovation around there that fintech or entrepreneurs can address.
And AI startups in Africa have raised more than $600 million. This was also over 100 deals. How do you see AI impacting Africa over the next 20 years?
The way I look at AI is to me, it's more fundamental than I used to look at it before. Before I used to think that AI is just like another internet. We're in 1990s now. Internet, it makes work easier, it makes connectivity, but AI is more than that. AI is like 1895 electricity. The discovery of electricity, 1895. It changes everything. And for African businesses, it's not a question of should we do AI or what is our future going to look like with AI? And there are three aspects of it that we are looking at as an investor. There will be core fundamental AI core businesses. They are the one building the models. They are like your open AI kind of business, right? They build a model. And African too should be looking at that too. The model that is intrinsic to us. We should be doing that. Okay. Then there is the AI first businesses. They leverage on that model and they use it to build their business. So they build businesses using AI, like AI agent businesses, or using AI to do calls, to do sales calls. Like one of the companies I was looking at, they can use AI to help you with your sales calls or business development or customer service. AI can do that. So some businesses, they don't have to build a model, but they leverage the model to build that. Do that. And an African business should be doing a lot of it. Then the rest should be AI enabled. The way you look at tech enabled businesses. Every business of the future, every business in Africa, every business in the world, if you're not AI enabled, you'll be left out. In the next maybe 2 or 3 years or maybe more, it will be criminal for any doctor to diagnose you without leveraging AI. It will be hard for your mechanic to look at your car, especially high-end car, without leveraging AI in it. It will be odd for you as a business, as a person, doing your business, whether you are assistant or whether you are a VC or whether you're a podcaster, to be doing what you're doing without leveraging AI one way or the other. It will be hard and it will not be competitive compared to the rest. And I think that's where we should look at it even in Africa as well.
Absolutely. But we do have a tradition here at ROA where we request our guests to bid farewell to our audience in their local language. This is an attempt for us to learn more about each other. So please do us the honors in Yoruba.
I'll do that. Ẹ ṣé o, ó dàbọ̀. Mo gbádùn ètò yìí àti ohun gbogbo tí a sọ. Ẹ̀yin olùgbọ́ wa, ẹ ṣé tí mo lérò pé ẹ̀yin náà gbádùn rẹ̀. Ẹ ṣé, ó dàbọ̀.
And that means?
It means thank you very much. Goodbye. I enjoyed this program and I hope the listeners also enjoyed it as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dotun. If you enjoyed today's episode and are passionate about African excellence and transformative leadership, then you are in for more. Be sure to check out this video here and our next episode where we dive deeper into African innovative solutions. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with someone that finds value in these stories. And finally, we want to hear from you. Comment below a guest that you would like us to feature or a subject that you are curious about. Your ideas fuel our mission, and your voices matter in shaping the conversations that we bring to life. Stay curious, stay inspired, and I'll catch you here next time on The Roar.